Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's very sweet of you to come along and allow me to indulge in this little soiree. Choosing which insights to share with you was not troublesome because I had a lot of requests indeed. I remember Parky, Sir Michael Parkinson, no less, asking me similarly some years ago. One doesn't normally have the opportunity to go into any detail, of course, but tonight, reading from my memoirs will permit me to do so. Now, why would you leave a successful career on the London stage to go across the wide Atlantic and start anew over there? Well, for some, it's an irresistible allure. In my case, it was more an escape that pushed me. Anyway, true facts will unfold as I read. I was about 35 when these events unfolded. It was once said, probably by some total journalistic nonentity, that for every successful playwright, there are 100 waiting in the wings. Personally, I can't see what they would be doing waiting in the wings. They would surely be better employed in trying to write decent work, instead of scratching away on some atrocious manuscript that bears little relationship to the Queen's English, let alone a play. It's difficult to look on such individuals with pity instead of the contempt they actually deserve. However, we must be mindful of their endeavours and try not to weigh further on their minds, which are heavy with poverty, hopelessness, and an all too slowly dawning recognition of their disabundance of talent. During my time eddying around the interlocking circles of the London stage scene, I happened upon many such budding playwrights. They came in all shapes and sizes, with varying degrees of enthusiasm and vacuity of skill. Some would wait for me at the doors of the Albury or the Apollo, expecting merely an autograph and offering sugar-coated platitudes. Others would accost me at a function and spew forth their misguided visions and mechanical meanderings. Many more I thankfully heard of only via colleagues and acquaintances. One of the most persistent and thick-skinned pretenders to the glorious art of professional penmanship was an individual named Jefferson Trilby. He was a man of good stature and a glimmering of wit, but he always seemed to find in everything an ingredient which would turn him from a cause for optimism into a reason to boil one's own head. I first became aware of Trilby when he swanned up to me at the last night party of "Hello, Mummy!", a rousing romp which went down very well with the ex-Etonian 36-38 age group. This gathering of stellar talent was a grand occasion at the house of producer Dilly Barnum. Dilly. Oh, in 1978. I recall I was spooning out some peppered artichoke hearts from the buffet when a young couple was suddenly at my right hand. Quickly, this person introduced himself and his friend Anna, and said what great fans of mine they understandably were. Initially, he seemed very pleasant, but as he unsubtly turned the conversation towards his writing endeavours, I felt the habitual weariness begin to rise. Anna was delightful though, and they made a great couple. So I indulged Trilby, and as time passed through the evening, I was pleasantly surprised with how generally unrepulsive he was. His ideas seemed fair, and he was well spoken, but I soon came to find out that not all was as it appeared, a trait which I saw follow Trilby thereafter. After the couple had left, and the party was dying, my excellent friend and colleague, Walter Brimstone, confided in me that he had come across this young Trilby fellow before. It seemed that Anna was not in fact his acquaintance or lover, but his sister. Apparently she'd been brought along by Jefferson merely so that he might achieve an air of respectability. That much was distasteful in itself. What was more troubling was that I was sure I'd seen them necking in the kitchen. Now, Trilby had obviously received little empathy from London's artistic cohort so far, and began to latch on to myself as being someone who'd shown interest, however mistakenly, in his career aspirations. Not long after the party, I received in the post a manuscript from Trilby. He had evidently extracted my home address in Chelsea from some stupidly naive stagehand or costumier, perhaps one who had had one too many creme de menthe at the after party. In his covering letter, pretentiously thanking me in advance for my valuable time, Trilby was at pains to point out that this was his 6th attempt at a play, no less, and the result of many months' work. It was quite a well-worded letter, ruined only at the last by his signing it, "Your friend, Jefferson Trilby." The nerve of the man! The play itself was a dark tale of love and betrayal entitled "The Twisted Knife." It was set in the hot summer of 1976 and centred around the tempestuous affair of one Selina Cawthorpe, a piano-playing redhead. While some of the dialogue was a little forced, things were heading for an acceptable, if predictable, denouement, when suddenly Selina burst into the Royal Albert Hall during the last night of the proms and attacked various audience members with an unpowered vacuum cleaner. As hard as I searched, I could not find the prior seeds for this outburst, and could only conclude that Trilby was inexplicably seeking a grandstanding ending to his drama. Well, I was on the verge of writing a response to Trilby and letting him down gently, when by chance we bumped into each other in Hyde Park. I was flying a kite, and he was walking his ferret. Unfortunately, his enthusiasm got the better of me, and I was unable to successfully pour cold water on his ambition. This had the grave result that he now considered me an admirer of his work. I did, however, manage to point out that his dialogue needed attention, and that dramas were not in such high fashion at present. I suggested that he set about some other project. Now, 9 weeks later, another package arrived on my doormat. It was the day before my annual holiday to West Wittering, and I decided to take the script along to while away the time should it rain. This time Jefferson had turned to farce, really. He had a reasonable grasp of scenario and a couple of decent characters. Melly, the blind ironmonger, and Whipple, a kleptomaniac gymnast. There were laughs to be had, particularly in one scene where Whipple and his wife are caught in bed with the band of the Irish Guards. But again, Trilby managed to scupper the endeavour. Whipple's challenge for the Olympic gold was going well when he revealed himself as a KGB spy and the man who had blinded Melly during the war. The two men then duelled with pitchforks on a high jump mat and died of exhaustion. I asked, if this was supposed to be fun, then I will admit that it was beyond both me and my holiday companions, who advised I disengage myself from Trilby's attentions forthwith. Returning to my home, I wrote to Trilby and pointed out the unfortunate implosion of the potential contained in Parallel Bars Converging Lives. The ensuing silence I took to be a hopeful sign that the man had seen the error of his ways and had decided to get a proper job. But alas, I was mistaken. Inspired no doubt by the onset of winter in 1979, the next tome of Trilby's that I was exposed to was a fireside family drama set at Christmas. And a gentle exploration of memories and growing up. Or at least, that's what I presumed the struggling apprentice was aiming at. What actually resulted was a stilted affair with dreadful continuity problems, the worst of which being the loss of Father Joseph's left arm during the first act, and its miraculous reappearance in the second. Crowned by the improbability of talking baubles on the Christmas tree, this ranked as Trilby's worst effort yet. In my subsequent communique, I did not shy from telling him so, but unfortunately, he seemed to be one of those individuals who take criticism constructively, rather than as an indication that one should just give up. Once again, he tried to solve the problem by veering off into another genre. His next work, The Butler Did It, was a Victorian detective story with shades of an Inspector Calls, but infinitely showier. To begin with, the detective was supposed to be a woman with an enormous beehive hairdo who contacted the dead victim via an Ouija board to track down the killer. Secondly, the prolific swearing was hopelessly out of place. And finally, the butler did in fact do it, thus removing any element of surprise, yet at the same time also failing to be ironic. Incredibly, even worse was to come. Excuse me. In early 1984, I heard on the thespian grapevine that Trilby had received an inheritance from a rich uncle and had decided to buy a small playhouse in Neasden, North London. It was situated next to a slaughterhouse. I could only conclude that the man's business sense matched his writing talent. Whilst a small army of workers set about revamping the theatre, Jefferson began work on the play that would open this new chapter in both his own life and that of theatre-going in Neasden. Now, for whatever reason, Trilby did not approach me with either ideas or the finished work. This proved to be a welcome hiatus for me, and I surmised that he was obliviously self-confident in his ability to turn out a silk purse after so many sow's ears. Others ventured that he was just being protective of the plot, so the opening night might be a total surprise to the audience, including myself, whom he had unkindly invited. To this day, I do not know what possessed me to attend. Perhaps some small part of me felt that this might be a renaissance, a breakthrough, or at worst, a lucky shot that was about to find its target. On that first night in September 1985, whatever else might be said, Jefferson did have an eye for architecture, and the theatre itself looked reinvigorated. If anyone could have suppressed the appalling stench in the air and thrown a tarpaulin over the stack of dead pigs beside the property, one's arrival for the evening would have been an infinitely more pleasant affair and perhaps less prophetic. Seated in the front row, my sense of desperate expectation was palpable. My critical eye was set at a hair trigger. I was waiting for the point in the play when Trilby's careful construction would surely break down catastrophically. So after a brief introduction by Trilby himself, the moderate audience and I were treated to the world premiere of Invest, a musical set in the heady world of investment banking. Yes, the story opened quietly with Spencer, the main character, looking through carpet samples with his girlfriend Jemima. This all went very well, obviously some first night nerves by the unknown actors, but quite engaging. Now Trilby, with his usual gross overconfidence, had written all his own songs, and it showed immediately. The first number was a comic duet entitled Beige or Puce, in which the couple argued playfully about what colour to choose for their living room floor. But written in A minor, in a slow 3/4 time, it was less playful than funereal. At the end of the scene, I prayed for something better, a feeling that I'd grown accustomed to during all Trilby's plays. Next scene saw Spencer in his investment banking office, opening with bonds, 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 a cheerful, thigh-slipping music hall-type number, which was marred only by the sudden appearance of an Eskimo conga line in its final chorus. Spencer is caught in promotion and undergoes an interview with his boss. This is rudely interrupted when a colleague bursts into the room to announce that the computer system has crashed, allowing Trilby to echo his own hatred of computers with the acerbic song, Spawn of Satan. It was well sung and featured a chorus line of children dressed as red computers with little devil horns. But I couldn't help thinking that Carl Orff would have turned in his grave to hear what had been done to his Carmen Burana theme. So far, the story had been linear, if plodding, but this was changed dramatically in Act 4. Incredibly, we discovered that Jemima is not the sweet typist that Spencer thought her to be, but a common prostitute with a vanilla fetish. I can safely say that I sat through her solo on my back, with my eyebrows jammed up under my hairline. Next, we were introduced to Gizmo, a dragon, who lived under the floorboards of the soon-to-be recarpeted living room and had a mortal fear of anything beige. His plaintive, musing solo piece, Beige Doused My Fire, was a totally inept construction that employed 4 tambourines all beating out of time with the small orchestra. As I winced my way through this number and began to dread where this hodgepodge might lead next, I and my fellow congregants were mercifully relieved of our torture. Gizmo the Dragon's final sigh was evidently meant to be accompanied by a pathetic flash of flame from the heavily costumed actor's headpiece. But what passed for the effects department must have done their sums wrong, and soon half the set was alight. Happily, Trilby's observance of fire regulations was impeccable, and the evacuation proceeded without issue. For his proud theatre, however, nothing could be done, and he came to stand at my side, and we watched the place fry while the fire brigade were en route. Now, for a lesser man than Jefferson Trilby, this would be a clear, undeniable sign that there were forces at work that would prevent him ever succeeding with the London stage. Not Trilby. He vowed there and then that he was going to continue shooting for the stars. And, well, it was as he was pitching me the ideas behind his next project, to a background of approaching sirens, that I decided it was time I had a name on Broadway. Thank you very much.
Right.